So one of the things you can notice is that our string is completely filled out right now. We shouldn't be adding directions here. And anyways, it's a map is something which will be larger, right? So we should have another page, another screen, where this is displayed. Okay, so to add a new screen to your app, you go to the add screen on the top here, and you say add screen, and then name your screen. In this case, I would name it map. Okay? And that created a new screen for me, hopefully. Yep, it's a little bit slow. Okay, so we have a new screen which is completely empty. We can switch between this screen and the previous screen by going here and selecting where we go. Screen 1 was our original screen. Map is our new screen. But of course, what we need here is a map, right? We want to show a map, and preferably with directions. So one of the easiest way to display map is to basically use Google Maps, because they are pretty good. And Google Maps are websites, right? They are basically, you can open them in a website. So for that, we can use an element which is called Web Viewer, which basically is an entire web browser built into the app inventor. So for example, if you wanted to write a new web browser, you just wrote a new web browser. That's it. You can publish it and call it my new web browser better than Chrome or something. Right? So it really is done. Now, this is just a window of a web browser, but nothing happens in it. We just open this, nothing will happen in it, because it has to have some address to display, right? It has to know where to go. And also, more importantly, it has to be open at the time of something happening in our previous screen, right? So, for example, if I press pick a location, then I want to open that new screen, and in that new screen, I want to open Google Maps, which will direct me to the place where which I say. Okay, so that's a little bit complicated task. So when you think about it, we have to design it into different, or divide it into different small elements, right? So as always, we will start with an event, and the event happens on the screen 1, right? So we go to screen 1, and we say, when we press element on the list, then do all this stuff. Okay, so we go to blocks, then we go to our list and see what we can do with the list. What happens, what list can react to, what are the events. And as you remember, events are always of the brownish orange color, right? So the only event which we can do on the list is after I picked up, selected some element, do something. Well, that's perfect, because that's exactly what I want to do. So I will drop the element on our program. And now we have to figure out what do we want to do when we pick the location, right? So we want to open a new screen on which we want to open a map, right? So there is a way to do it. There is a control sequence in the built-in section, but there's many things, which says open another screen with start value, okay? And you provide a screen name and the start value. So we know that we can provide a screen name. How is our screen called? It's called map, right? So that would be, we can just open a new map. But we also want to send some information to that new screen. Basically, we want to send our choice to the picked up and picked place, whatever it is, and we want to send the current position too, right? Because what we are going to do is to get to the point, this is our safe spot, but from somewhere, right? Which is our current location. And our current location is unsafe spot, but it is available because we have the GPS readout, right? So we can get the current GPS position and the safe position from the database, okay? So we need all this information to be sent as one value to the new screen. Okay? So that means we will have to use value combiner, which is, we used it before, join, right? You can just use join. Okay? So let's do that. So when we pick an element on our list, then open another screen which we name say select text. Screen name is map, and send it a value which combines all the information which we need. Okay? So it is join with a lot of elements. So I will extend this because I need all the elements there. We'll see how many we actually need. Okay? Now, remember we are going to be opening, so here, basically what we could do here, we could just draw our position and the position from database. Well, maybe let's start with it. So we want to give here the position from the current position. What is our current position? How we can get it? Remember where is our current position stored in one of these stuff? The longitude or latitude, right? Whenever our position changes, these guys display the position. So I can say, okay, well, give me the longitude text. Also give me the latitude text. And we are combining it. We want to have a separator. So I want to put comma in between them. Right? So this is my current position being sent to the next screen map as a start value. Right? And now I also need the position which I picked from the database. So I know that I will be taking it from the database, right? And so I press on the database and I look for something which would give me the values in the database under given tag, which is this one, right? Call database and get the value under this tag. And if you go over it, it explains. Retrieves the values saved under a given tag, right? So I want that value. And the nice thing about this value is that it's already combined, right? Remember we combined it when we were putting it under a given tag here. We combined it into a comma separated two values, so we don't need to do anything about it. Okay? And the other thing is that what we are sending is just the longitude, latitude, and the new longitude and latitude as text, right? But we want to open it in a browser. And when you open something in the browser, what do you actually do? You provide an address, right? You provide an address and some parameters to this address. If I go to Google Maps, let's go to Google Maps. What you can see here is that it is a URL, hopefully, can I make it bigger? Not really. It is a URL we start with maps.google.com/maps, and there is some stuff after, right? Something after. Well, this is not completely accidental things. What it is the way to retrieve directions from one place to another through parameters of a URL, okay? It's the way you would, if you wanted to get directions, but you didn't write it in the Google interface, but just wanted to write it in the address box, that's how you would do it. So what you need is to create a string, create a text, which consists of maps, of google.com/maps, question mark, and then there is this thing as added, well, because it is mean, they have to make it difficult to read. S address basically means source address, or the place where we are going from. It will be S address equals, in this case, in my example, you see that there is some address in Marina, right? But what you can also do, and you can check that in the documentation of Google, is that you provide a longitude and latitude here. So here you can say, some number 172, comma 32. That will be longitude and latitude. Okay? Of the original, of the place from which you want to get the direction. Okay? And additionally, so I write n in the same line, and I also want to set the destination address, which is DADDR. Okay? And this will be equal to what? To our retrieved values from the database under the tag name for our place where we want to go, right? That sounds complicated, but we got it in our system in this place, right? We basically retrieved that value here under the tag, which we didn't yet provide, from the database. Okay? So what I want to really send to the new screen is not only the longitude and latitude, but also the beginning and the middle and the end of this entire address. So basically I can create one text, which then I can open in the browser and it will show me the direction. Okay? And this is a very common way. It is a little bit complicated, I know, but it's a very common way you communicate with systems. For example, if you want to post something on Facebook, you actually can do it this way. You will have a URL which has some parameters, some authorization, and you just open this URL in the browser and it will post it for you on Facebook or Twitter or some other places, right? So this is a common way of communicating with other systems and retrieving information from other systems too, right? So even though it is complicated, it is worth learning about, because this opens for you communication with any systems you want. Like you can write this up right now and say, and post, by the way, post my current location on Twitter with a comment, right? By just creating one URL, even if it's a complicated one. Right? One address does everything for you, okay? So right now, my text looks like it, that I have longitude, latitude, get value, and I need actually the tag value, which we never got, so I go to the list, and I say, give me the selection, right? The one which I selected. This is the selection. And this value here, value if tag not there, is basically going to be provided if the tag was not there. So if I ask for selection of something which doesn't exist, then this will happen. Well, in our case, it will never happen because I can only press existing selection. I cannot press in a list on something which doesn't exist in this list, right? So that will never happen, so we don't worry about it. Okay, so we are creating this string here, but it is missing the beginning. It is missing the maps Google beginning of the address, right? So let's do it. Let's add here another little piece of text, string, and it will be actually the address of Google Maps. Which is HTTP. It has to be a full address, maps.google.com/maps/ and very importantly, question mark. And then we can say s_addr equals, right? So we're basically using this join, text joining thing. We are creating a long URL with all the information. Okay? Is that clear? Because that might be a little bit complicated. Who feels it is clear how we are creating the URL? Okay. You will have the program so you can analyze it afterwards. Okay? So we created the beginning of the URL here. We sent the longitude and latitude. Yeah?
Do you need that slash, this maps and question mark?
yeah, this is the way which is basically dividing. Oh, after maps, well, that's a good question. If we need the, no, yeah, we need the slash. And I don't remember that, right? I have to check how the Google address actually do it. How I check it? I go to Google Maps and look at it. Oh, okay, you're right. We don't need it. Here we don't need it. So I think it wouldn't break if we don't need it. Okay, so let's remove it. I think it actually works with it too. So what the question mark basically says, by the way, is that from now on, this is not part of the address. This is now parameters, which I will be using to retrieve some information. Okay. Okay. So we have source address equal to longitude, comma latitude. Hopefully, this is in the correct order. The other way? Okay. Yeah, I didn't remember. So latitude, comma longitude. Well, in this case, we should check if we save it in proper order. No, I saved it in the database in the wrong order too. That means we will be sent to some other place in the planet, with latitude being longitude and being latitude. Okay, and then we need this other part of the string, which is not yet done there, which is and the address equals, right? We don't have that yet in our string, our combined string. So we can put it there by using text. Actually, I don't know why. Oh, that would be easier. See? Okay, so I'm saying here, and additionally I need destination address equal to the values saved in our database. Okay, and that is it. So we basically created the string we want to send to the string name map, right? So that is it from our perspective of the event after picking, right? So that will happen when we select something on the screen, the new screen will open, select something on the list, the new screen will open, and this value will be sent there. But we have to also react to that value on the other side, right? It is sending this value, this big string with our addresses, is something as if it was an event for the other map screen, right? So there has to be a reaction to that event. Okay? So now we go to the map, and in the map we don't have anything. We right now don't do any reaction to anything, right? So we need to find something to which we could react. Okay? So let's see what map offers us. We have map, and then what we can do? Back press, well, we didn't press back. Error, hopefully there is no errors. And then there is when map initialize. Well, that sounds like potentially a thing we need to use, right? Because initialize is something which happens at the beginning. So maybe when it is opening, it will actually do when map initialize, right? Nothing else is there which could be used. And then we also need to get the start value and do something with it, right? So we can go to control and see what is our start value when we are initializing, and what will be this start value when we go to a map. This will be the URL which we created when, as a start value for that screen, right? Remember, it is here. We created a huge URL, a text, which is set as a start value for a map, which we are opening. So now we want to retrieve that text, which we created, and do something with it. So what do we want to do with it? we have a web browser, right? And we want to open this address in a web browser. So we go to web viewer and look for something which will allow us to open in a web browser. Oh, sorry, it's not this one. Open a URL in a web browser. So there is something called call web viewer, go to URL, and I can provide a URL, right? Maybe that is a good choice. So I take that and say, when I'm entering this screen, I would like to open web browser in this URL. And what is this URL? Well, that's exactly our value, which we created very carefully. Okay? So the program on this side is very simple. At the opening, go to this URL. But to create this URL, it was pretty complicated, right? We had to join stuff together and be careful. And if I make any mistakes here, which is possible, you always make mistakes when you program. That's why you're testing all the time. It might not work, might send us to, like when I had the latitude instead of longitude, it would send us to the other side of the planet, which probably wouldn't find directions. Probably. Okay? So, this is almost it. Our app is almost completed. Let's see if there is any issues with it. Let's see if it works. Maybe we need to fix something. So let's see our app. First, let's see if it reacts to picking. Of course, my phone is connected. Okay. So we have, let's say, some location. Now we have some locations here. If I press this one, if I press this one, best place, it should open map with the destination to that place. So the destination was 3733 Divart East Street. That's my favorite place for some reason. And we are from parts unknown because anybody can guess why we are from parts unknown? Because the GPS didn't read yet, and we have an empty value. It's unknown values on GPS, right? So we are going from nowhere to Divart, and it looks like it takes only 28 minutes. That means nowhere is very close by. And we can actually see and interact with it, with this map, as if with a normal Google Maps. Nowhere is in Carmel. Oh no, just before. Well, kind of in Carmel, right? Okay. Well, didn't know that, but that's okay. So you see, by carefully using whatever is available to us and constructing this URL for the browser, we have a fully functional app which can direct us to places which we earlier saved through the GPS location, right? And we did it in 2 hours, which is pretty nice because, you know, if I wanted to implement this app, next week I have actually a workshop on creating apps in real programming languages, and I would not be able to create this app in 2 hours. No chances. Absolutely no way. I could create maybe the first 10% of it in 2 hours, even if I was programming like crazy quick. Right? So this system is really, really useful and really easy to use. Of course, it requires learning, right? You have to understand all these events. You have to know what is happening, when they happen. Try to use them, but it is incomparable with the level of difficulty of actually programming it. And it's so powerful that there is this balance of power between this system and the difficulty of programming, which in my opinion gives this system a great advantage for startups, startup apps, right? So basically you create the app like this, you release it and see if 200,000 people download it, that's great. Then you can hire a developer to make a more complicated app or improve your app for a while and then hire somebody for really more complicated app, right? But it gives you this start point. Now, this is not yet over, we have 20 minutes, so what we can do now is to see how much you learned and to challenge you a little bit with this app so you can, by yourself, see if you can extend some of the functionality. Okay, so let's try to do the following. So if you think about our app, there is what we are saving is the longitude and latitude, right? But GPS gives us also altitude. And let's say you notice after 2 weeks since the release of your app that it's used mainly by paragliders, and they just want to also have the altitude of their favorite spot. They really like to be on a 35 meters above the ground looking at the Monterey Bay, right? And they want to save that spot, so next time they go there. So try to change this app in such a way that it actually saves also, along with longitude and latitude, it saves the altitude. Okay? And I will be here to help you. It broke only once. It's wrong. Oh, maybe twice. If you have any questions, please ask me and I can help you with it. Don't be shy. Yeah? Who is able to do it? Who? Who is more or less able to do it, but not sure? Okay, so I will show you how to do that. Most of you did it, but just for those of you who didn't do it, well, remember how we actually retrieved the altitude, the longitude and latitude, right? We get it here. When the location changes, we set longitude and latitude fields, labels in our system to these current values. So I right now don't have a place where I'm saving these altitudes. I need to change my interface a little bit and add label, which will be called altitude. It will have a text altitude, and then another label when I will actually save my altitude as read from the GPS, which also is white color, and it will be called altitude. Sorry, unknown, and it will be called altitude here. Okay, so, and of course, I just have right now an empty place for the data, so I need to do something about it. So I go to blocks, and when I get the location change, I want to set that label. So I will go here and say set the altitude text to altitude, which I'm getting from my GPS. Oops. Okay, and that right now just provided me with the data, but there is something missing. Anybody can tell me what is missing? Yeah, so I do get the view on the, I get my latitude. Again, my GPS doesn't work, but if it did work, it would show the latitude, altitude properly. Oh, no, it does. We are on the 0. So, so, but it is not saved in the database, right? Because when I provided save and save it, I didn't add it to the string under the database tab. So I need to add it here, this string, and I can do it by pressing join, adding another string and another string. I need to. Oops. And putting another comma and putting the altitude here. In this way, it is saved in the database, right? And that's more or less it. Now we can think about displaying altitude on Google Maps, things like that. Well, I don't know. Maybe you should have it, maybe not. But this basically extends the program to save the altitude. Okay? So let's do another little challenge, the last one. You're probably exhausted already. But you are now app programmers, right? So that's pretty good. So this is a challenge where you have to fix the current situation. So in our current program, we have this issue that if we say the location under the same name, which already exists in the database, the previous location is just gone forever, and there is no warning. So if I save something like my favorite restaurant, and then I save my favorite restaurant again, my previous favorite restaurant is gone. And let's say your users are complaining about it. It should not allow you to save the same under the same names without any warning. So your goal here would be to fix that by issuing a notification when the tag already exists in the database. So if there is something already in the database that is with this name, you say you cannot save it under this spot. This spot is occupied. Change the name. Okay? So for that, you need one additional information, which we didn't use. We didn't do in our app, which is an in-if statement. So one of the basic things in programming is called if statements. Okay? So if statements are basically choices which it's like a branch of two possible choices which you can do when something happens. So it's like saying if, right? If something happens, if something is true or false, if some condition happens, then do that, then do that. Otherwise, which we use the word else, do something else. Okay? So, what do you think would be the condition here in our if statement in the app? If we want to prevent people from saving a location which is already under the name which is already taken. Yes. So if the name already exists, right? If the tag already exists in the database, then we will issue some warning. We'll say, okay, well, don't do that. Please provide a different name. Otherwise, we're okay. We can save it. Okay. So the if statement, and this is a difficult challenge in comparison with the previous one. The if statement is in control. It's here, right? So you can say if something, then don't do that. And you can also add else to it. Otherwise, do that. Okay, so if the tag doesn't exist in the database, then you can save it. Otherwise, don't save it. Ask user, issue a notification. You can use call show alert and say you can't save it under this name. Okay? And this one is difficult, so try to do it. I will help you. And if you don't finish it, take it as a home challenge. If you can fix that, then you are like advanced programmer. Because this is complicated. Okay? So it will happen, the decision has to happen at the moment of truth, right? So yeah, so you will have to modify your code, you think, right? You will have to do different way. You say, when I say fix state, then these things happen, right? Now what happens when one of these conditions will be that actually will stay, and the other one is becoming, and the other one is the else. Oops. So do that, do that. Now you have to think, what is the actual condition? What is the condition? And it's a condition on database, right? Think about like, how would you check if something is safe using the database? Exactly. Yeah, so if you want to remove, when you want to, it is at the time of the build, but before the database, which once you so you remove that, push it there, and then create a condition, create then because one of them, yeah, for example, because so then your if says if that exists, the database. Yeah. Yeah, so that's a good question. So if you don't do the
Did you guys figure out how to do this? I'm not quite sure how to get it to compare it to all the other tags. So I've got to compare location name to the previous tags. And if that's true, we're going to display an error message.
Because you basically need to really think what of these three names you can use. The only thing I can think of is this one. Because if you look at this one, I can ask for a value for a tag. This is it. I can ask for the value of this tag. What it means. If it is there, you will get some value. My value is not there. If it's not there, then you will get this value that is not there. So I can say set or not there, or actually doesn't exist. Right? Now I can compare the result of that to doesn't exist. If result of that is doesn't exist, I know my tag is okay. Right? You know that you understand that too? If I get from this operation but in your condition you say this name already exists, so that should not go, right? Right? If I got anything else but doesn't exist, then I'm sorry, but it exists. Otherwise, it's not zero. Right? So it is crazy. Okay, so we have 5 minutes, and let me show you quickly the solution. I think some people did it, but this one is really challenging. That's why I said you can feel like you are a programmer if you solve it. So the problem here is that we need to check when we are saving. We have to do the if statement when we are saving, right? And we need to check if the tag exists in the database. So if it does exist, then we want to issue some warning. If it doesn't exist, then we want to actually save it because it's okay. But how to check if tag exists in the database, okay? And because our database is so limited, we have only these 4 choices. The only thing that I can think of to use, but actually Miguel found another way, is to use this call. Because if you think about it, it's like this. What it says, give me a value over this, under this tag, and if this tag doesn't exist there, give me that value, which says that it's not there, okay? So I will say, my current picked location is, where it is, this one, list selection. Oh no, sorry, it's we're talking about location text and name text. So my location name text, the one which I'm right now writing, I will ask for its value in the database, okay? If it's already there, I will get some value, longitude and latitude of previously saved place. If it's not there, I will get value if tag not there, which I want to set to doesn't exist. Okay? And now I can create a condition. I can say is text does not exist equal to what I get from the database. If it is, then what does it mean? It means that the tag doesn't exist there, right? So if it is true, then the tag is not in the database, so it's available. If it is not true, if they are different, then that means that the database gave me some values in my location, and these values are not, does not exist. These values are longitude, latitude, or the other way, right? So this will not be equal to does not exist, okay? So this way, if this condition is true, then I know that I already used that tag, and I have to issue a warning saying, no, sorry, you have to change the name. Okay, so where are our warnings? We have a alert here. We can copy and say, sorry, but that name is already taken. Right? Otherwise, if this condition is false, so I'm actually getting the does not exist value, I will save it as I did before. Okay? And believe me, conditionals, this if statements, are the most difficult thing in computer science. People make so many mistakes, they have to think about it for a long time. So it is not easy, but it is possible to think about it. And there is a million ways of writing it. This is maybe not the easiest way to write. Just have to think about something which is true or false on the given situation. They are very powerful, but a little bit difficult to use. Okay, so we're almost done. And I just wanted to thank you for coming here. And if you have any questions, we have 5 minutes for questions. So this will be short. Any questions?
You know that, so I can do that.
Yeah. No. For this one, you cannot use iPhone, but there is a system called Kino, which is a startup which is supposed to be, they call it App Inventor for iOS. I didn't try it, so I don't know. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. I doubt that there is a system comparable because this is 5 years of development of Google and MIT. But yeah, it's not available for iOS yet. Maybe somebody will actually create it. But there are other systems. You know, there are systems which allow you to turn websites into programs. The thing is that this way of doing it is really the proper way, because what you are really getting is an actual program written in the for that platform. When you use a website and turn it into app, it doesn't work that fast. There are issues with it. So I highly recommend using that over like web-based programming of applications. But for iOS, you don't have really that much choice. At least I don't know. Maybe there is something on the market. I don't know. Okay, so any other questions? Okay, so if you have any comments, not to complain or a prize, send me an email. And thank you very much for coming to the workshop, and good luck with the app creation.
On behalf of the Institute, the university, and all of you, I want to thank again for Miguel and for Christoph to offer the workshop. They do it out of volunteer and for the love of education and innovation and technology. So it's another round of
Tips will be accepted at the door.
and we will give you a box of chocolate.
Okay.
And a very nice